Welcome, Leonard.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on to this interview.
Thanks for having me on.
So today, Leonard, I hope what we can do is spend a little bit of time to talk about your journey as an athlete. I think youth athletes would be very curious, and I think they will learn a lot from your experience as a sailor in the national system. So maybe if we can just start by having you, think back in time a little bit now. When did you start your sport? How did you get started?
God, those are good memories. So I started sailing at the age about 10, 11 because my parents was like allowing me to try something new, which back then we were supposed to choose CCA. Yeah, so there's like badminton and the typical swimming and stuff, which is interesting, it's fun. But we thought, hey, sailing is something new that I've never heard before. So we embarked on this journey, give it a try. And yeah, it's been a fruitful one, but not easy at times because firstly, it's not a big sport back then when we first started off. And secondly, it's that...
So when you were 11, so what year was that? Do you recall?
Wow, that's probably 2004, 5.
Okay.
Yeah, giving out my age.
It's okay. You're still young.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Yeah, so started off on sailing, after which they gave us the opportunity to do a conversion into windsurfing, which is quite similar. Basically, it's sailing has a boat, windsurfing is a board that you sail on the water.
So when did you convert to windsurfing?
At the age of 13.
13, okay. So you did 2 years in the class now escapes me.
Sailing in Optimist.
Optimist,
yeah.
Correct, yes.
Then switched over to windsurfing thereafter.
Okay. So at 13 you did windsurfing. And how did you come to choose that sport? Was it recommended to you, or you just woke up one day and said, can I try that?
Yeah, I think it's when Optimist is like a small boat and then you see all these fast guys on the surfboard zooming past. So I think the adrenaline rush, you just see them having fun, you just want to go and join them and have fun. So I think that leads me to the conversion of going over. Yeah.
So tell me more about the windsurfing experience when you got into it. How did it play out for you initially when you started?
Yeah, so initially when I first started, it was it's just about learning a sport, trying to balance on the board and going around. So there wasn't so much of thought about, hey, let's go and compete and go and do well and win medals. It's more of like, just enjoy what you're doing. So I think that is quite a fun element because the group that I was learning it with was mixed age. Some people are maybe 4 years younger than me. Some of the guys are like 3 or 4 years older than I am. So I think it's a good mix of age where we finish our session and then we go on to just have a little fun. The parents will be like sitting around barbecuing by the beach.
Okay, so this is not training with people in the same school cohort. It was just a bunch of people learning sport, and older, younger.
Just coming together to learn an activity.
So what made you get on the board week in, week out? What was it about the sport that was so special to you?
I think it's the joy of just being by the beach itself and just surfing out there, which I think when you're young, weekends are like our free time because you don't have to go to school. So that keeps me busy and that excites me in a sense.
Okay. So did that bring you to the attention of the school? Did you windsurf for school, or how did that evolve into the national youth scene?
Yeah, so fortunately and unfortunately, I think the schools doesn't have a windsurfing as a CCA, and there isn't so many schools that offer it. So naturally, what happens is once we start to learn the sports and then we start to compete in a few events, that's where I think you get hooked by the fact that you see yourself improving and getting better in each competition. Yeah, and also there are multiple squads within the sailing center or windsurfing. There's your basic one, and then there's the intermediate stuff. So you see all these guys that are up there in front of you, and you slowly follow them.
So did that mean you had to do a different CCA for school, or were you still sailing in the Optimist class for school?
So for school, I did something different. We do AV, so like
AV club?
yeah.
Okay.
And
So you had to juggle that as well as windsurfing on the weekend. Okay. What were some of the highlights for windsurfing in your secondary school years? What stands out in your memory now when you look back?
I did probably three events. One is the first one was to thrown into the SEA Games at the age of 15. Yeah, so that was quite shocking. Second one was just before O levels. I think it was given a chance to go for the Youth Worlds.
Okay, wait, SEA Games first. So that was the first time someone came to you and said, Leonard, we want to send you to the SEA Games. Tell us, how did it happen?
Okay, so I think
It doesn't happen to everybody every day.
yeah, so maybe I'll slowly guide you through from age of 13, 14, and 15 to reach there. So at least you have an understanding of it. From just learning around having some fun
that's right.
to actually going out there to compete.
Yeah.
So first started off just learning the sport, enjoying it. Then after you slowly start to go and compete and try to learn more and see yourself grow. So then after that, slowly we managed to put together into one big group of us, trying to compete and just getting better. So I think when I first started out the sport, the thought was that, hey, enjoy it, but I think would it be fun to actually travel overseas and just compete for the fun of it in the next 1 year? Yeah. So
And this is a group brought together by Singapore Sailing Federation, or is it like a youth squad?
yeah, I think it was a bunch of us is training together. So I think the federation has to get us together.
Okay.
So I think that was the privilege of bringing us together.
So that happened when you were, what, 14?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was around
So you were
late 13.
late. So end of Sec 1,
Yeah.
Sec 2, you started in a sort of a national setup, a youth setup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means you went overseas for the first time, Sec 2.
Yeah, so I got a chance to go overseas and compete for the first time, and I think the fun of just going overseas and the best part was I think we didn't have a coach for that trip,
Okay.
so you get to do a lot of things on your own and stuff, which I don't think most of us at 8 or 14 were able to travel overseas and do stuff like that. So I think it's a privilege which excites me in a sense that kept me going on.
It must have been such an adventure. Where did you all go?
It's actually somewhere nearby Penang.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, we just travel out by bus up there, go out to sea, and then at some days where we were quite bored, we went to the land shop when we had a bit more adventurous and we just tour around the towns. Yeah, but still competing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many times did you go overseas in Sec 2
Sec 2 is only that one time.
to Penang? Okay.
Yeah, then slowly I think we had a new coach who came in and took over the squad, and I think he's the one who really set us further. So he showed us certain pathway where he started to bring in equipments that are used in the Youth Olympian in 2010,
Okay.
and also he starts to train us in equipment that can be compete in Southeast Asia and stuff like that for the games.
So by the end of Sec 2, you have gone to Penang, you have a new coach, and so that's when SEA Games started becoming a reality in Sec 3?
Around Sec 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where there was two slots. One is there's an opportunity to compete in it's called the minstrel class and the men's and the youth class.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that strike you? The first time you heard them saying, "Hey Leonard, SEA Games." Do you recall your memory of that?
Yeah, so I think there was like a group of us who they told us, hey, there's an opportunity to go for the SEA Games. You can either choose the youth if you're under 19, or the winner will choose if both are under 19, and then the other one will go for the men's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think quite a few of us signed up for the trials, then we go and compete into it. Fortunate to win it. Yeah. To get second. So that means my teammate will be first and he gets
He goes to the men's.
he gets to choose which one
Okay,
he wants.
chooses which one he wants. Okay.
Which he was 17, 18 back then. So definitely he gets the choice of going to the youth one. which is easier. So I was like, okay, go to the men's. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about then what happened after that? So SEA Games was on the cards. Where was the SEA Games and what was your experience of that?
Yeah. So the SEA Games was in Thailand.
This is 2007. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's quite fast, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. So 2007. Yeah. This was at Pattaya. So I think how it was leading up to the games itself, the preparation.
You must have been one of the youngest, right?
One of you minus the optimist.
Minus the optimist.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
They will be yeah. There was that an optimist class?
Yes.
Okay. At SEA Games.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. How was the experience of the prep and going to Pattaya?
Yeah, I think the preparation leading up is that I think you just got to balance both school and also expectations. Yeah, so good thing is that the games was in December, so that means you can clear school by November and still have the need time to prepare for it. I think expectation is the big one because going to the men's squad where you're competing with people who probably will have windsurfed longer than you maybe have lived, because they are like 23, 24 years old.
Right.
So that's where you go into really reshape your mind. One is to really go there and learn and enjoy yourself. Yeah.
If I can bring you back to that year in the lead up to Pattaya, I just want to get a sense, what was a training day like, or maybe a week like? Just want to get a sense of how did you cope both with training and studies? What was a week like to you back then, if you can recall?
So I think we have a quite good routine. So out of the whole week of 7 days, weekends will be definitely training at East Coast. On the weekdays itself, in the morning portion we have school. On the evening, we'll have gym training right around here, at the stadium.
Okay. Oh, at stadium?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were in school all the way to easily 3
p.m.
Right. Then you head here for gym. Okay.
Which starts around like 6 to 8.
And the gym training was how many times a week?
So we do that 2 times a week. Then we add on with water training on one more day of the weekday, 1 to 2.
So water training was only limited to weekend?
Weekend and 2 weekdays.
2 weekdays. So the weekend, how long were you on the water?
Usually it's we start around 10:30, then all the way until evening.
Right. So easily, sounds like 6-7 hours.
Yeah. With lunch breaks.
With lunch breaks, okay. So 2 land trainings
Yeah.
in the gym, then 2 water trainings during the weekday, and then essentially 6-7 hours out at National Sailing Centre, basically the whole day.
Yeah, but it's fun. It was fun then.
So where did you fit studies in all that when you were 15 at that point? What was it like?
Studies is where I think in class itself you just try to really absorb as much as you can, and then homeworks. Yeah, I remember. The good thing is I have friends around who are like a bit, they like to quickly finish up things before they go on to the next activity. So sometimes we would quickly after class when we finish and things are still fresh, we just finish things up and then put it aside. And that's where kind of the time. The hard part is when there's a lot of things, then it's where after you finish training, take a nap on the way back and then we continue on at night, then get back to bed. So I think that's the challenging part.
Okay. So this is when you had water training in the weekday, and then after that you still had homework.
With gym and homework.
Okay. And what were the challenges you faced when you were trying to do that? If you can recall.
I think it's sometimes you. Okay, I think managing homework it's not too bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's about managing burnout. That's more important.
Burnout from the sport.
Burnout from having so many things going on.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that was more important. Yeah.
In what way did you notice that that was something important? Like, what signs were you getting that if you didn't watch yourself, you might burn out?
I think it's more of just getting tired of and wondering like, hey, why you keep on having to come here to train and doing all this kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're wondering like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. I think sometimes you will come in and then when you start to wonder why, that's where I think you have to find time and space to really rest a bit more and then continue on.
And then what did you do to rest back then?
Yeah, so I think a good thing is having a mix of different school activities like
The AV club.
yeah, that's where you have school events and stuff. So that will takes your mind away from the sports itself and then come back in again.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that helps. And also having a group of friends in school where sometimes in school holidays and stuff, you do different activities with them. Like just go out cycling and stuff. Yeah.
So you had a bunch of friends outside your sailing teammate, your sailing fraternity.
Yeah.
Okay. May I ask, like, how many of them did you hang out with outside sailing, if you can recall? A few.
Like I remember there was a group of us who usually we will hang out together during holidays. So like about 6 to 8 of us. Yeah.
And how did they, see your sport? Because you were spending quite a bit of time sailing,
Yeah.
obviously. And if they asked you to hang out with them on a weekend, obviously you have no time. How does that work?
I'll be honest, I didn't have that issue. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. So I think it's like a common understanding. Like, he's not free on the
He's not
weekend,
free.
so just like let him be and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. So you had supportive friends.
Yeah.
Okay. And they allowed you to just hang out with them and you all just enjoy life. There's nothing to do with sailing and nothing, nothing to do with studies too, I presume.
Yep.
Okay. So these were schoolmates.
Yeah, this was schoolmates.
So okay, now so you managed to juggle. Sounds like you are quite prepared. You do your homework on a regular basis. You're not the sort to leave it hanging, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like
if
it.
not early in the morning, just come to school a bit earlier. That's like
Okay. Yes, we all need friends like that
yeah.
to survive. Okay. So you manage to balance sports and training, and then you get yourself to SEA Games. Tell me about that experience, because you're 15 years old, right? End of that year, go to Pattaya, sailing against some much older athletes. What was that experience like?
It was. I'll be honest with you, I really enjoyed it a lot because, I still, even though it's crazy to think about, competing with people who are a lot older than you, a lot more experienced, I think the expectation of going into the games itself, and also I think back then, and now they do have psychologists, right? Sports psychologists. Yeah, so I think the beauty of working with a sports psychologist, it helps you set the perspective right.
Was there someone working with you?
Yes. So there was this Japanese lady. It's quite cool. I think one key thing that I really pick up from her is just to enjoy yourself, whatever you do. And I think she told me once like, hey, you're 15, don't worry about medals and stuff like that and results because
Why, were you very anxious about medals? Do you recall that was a major goal for you when you went?
No lah, I don't think so. I think knowing where I stand, being realistic from the federation point of view is that for someone who is only in the sports for 2 years, competing with guys of 15 years of experience, and Southeast Asia itself is pretty strong, where quite a couple of countries like Indonesia and Thailand are Asian champions, which some of the Asian champions are Olympic medalists. So with that mentality in mind, I don't think the expectation was there. But I think that awards and helps plant a seed in the actions that and perspectives that I take on and I look at the sport itself.
So when you went there, you had a sort of a realistic expectation of yourself. You were not gunning for a medal. There was no expectation for that.
Yeah, I was like, if I can get a medal, that means I could get a medal in the Asian Games, and that means I could get a medal in Olympics. So, it's not an issue.
Okay. So no pressure then.
No pressure then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that when you look back and with that experience, what do you think your sense of identity was as a 15-year-old with the SEA Games under your belt?
There's so much more to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's...
So you left that games feeling like there's so much more to learn.
Yes, because when you compete with people who are like so much more experienced and getting your ass whooped.
I won't ask you how you finished then.
Don't worry, it's an honest show. But I think it's I'll be honest. I finished last or second last. But the ability of seeing yourself competing with these people who are like 15 to 20 years older than you, and then slowly closing the gap each time round in each race, and also leading up because we go into Thailand a lot earlier to train with them, and seeing at different conditions you can actually get close to them and win them one or two races. I think that's a good.
Oh, did you manage to win one or two races?
One or two races you can see you won a few of them.
Okay.
Although you can say they made a few mistakes and stuff like that, but I made less mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you felt after you finished that SEA Games and knowing that you were quite close, that you could actually match them sometimes? Do you still remember that 15-year-old sense of identity and confidence? Do you recall?
Yeah, I think it's still really like wow, they are so good and there's so much to improve on and to work on. Yeah.
Then so after that experience, you were not discouraged, I presume.
Yeah.
You wanted to continue.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the next major highlight after the SEA Games?
That was so we had the Youth Worlds.
Okay. When was that?
It was in July in Denmark.
In 2010.
2008.
2008. Okay. All right. Pattaya is 2007.
Yeah.
Okay. So Youth Worlds.
Yeah.
Even bigger stage.
In
a way, because they are dealing with sailors from windsurfers from all over the world.
Yes. I think that was the goal because firstly it's in Europe.
Yeah.
Haven't been there.
Yeah.
Always want to. So I think that was the carrot on the stick that moving forward.
Right.
Yeah. A different set of equipment to learn, much bigger. That means you have to go a lot further. But I think that helps. I think the challenge was doing that, having to do that, yet it was the O-level year.
Yes, I was just going to ask you about that because how did you juggle an O-level year with the Youth Worlds in the middle of it? I think I would like to hear that experience. I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, okay. I think a lot of athletes are very hardworking. I'll be honest with you, I always study last minute. That's the honest truth. But I think it's being able to juggle comes from I think the start where remember when I showed you Penang?
Yeah.
So Penang, what just so happened is during the mid-semester test, and usually back then you're like, can I do this? Yeah.
Okay.
So we kind of asked our back then principal for one-time approval, like, hey, let's go and travel and compete. So it was quite surprising. He was very, very supportive. But in return, he took out our scorecard immediately, our report book, before we left. And it's like, okay, so English, math, science, and all this is your score. And at the next exam, this is the score I want to see.
Right. Before he agrees.
He agreed.
Oh, he agreed.
He agreed. Like, you guys can go, but hey, for the next exam, this is what I will expect. Yeah.
Okay.
So he just left it there. I don't think he checked. But back then when we were like sec 2, we were like, okay, I better go and study for it. And that's where you start to realize that if you really put your heart to studying for it, I think surprisingly the score does increase.
Okay. So you saw a direct correlation between your effort and the academic grade.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that helps where you kind of fine tune the way you study it. That's how it helps juggle where we go into at the age of 16 going to O level. Yeah.
For Youth World, even though it's an O level year, you've already figured out, okay, this is what I need to do to manage my studies and get the grade I need.
Yeah.
And balance both.
Yeah, so you kind of have the mentality of, okay, how am I going to study and to do the grade? But secondly is that when the time comes when it gives you the door to open, everyone was like, hey, are you going to bring like your study notes and everything overseas? And I was like, because it's like June holiday in July, so it's like, just go for it, enjoy it. Came back to school, felt the pain, but also you felt the urgency to like, really, okay, I had a good fun the past 2 months, I think time to study. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that helps with the switch between like sports and study, sports and study. It keeps the mind fresh because you enjoy the sports itself and you realize, okay, it's time that I need to come in to study, and then you have that sense of urgency. Whereas if you always have time on the side, then there's no push to rush for it. You're like, okay, never mind, let's go have fun and study another time.
So Leonard, I thought what you just said was very interesting about how when you have your sport, you train hard, you compete, you have fun in it, and then after that you switch out to studying and it keeps things fresh. And I think one of the observations we have noticed with some athletes is that, just doing one thing, like just studying or just training, like competing, sometimes it's very difficult for some athletes to cope with that. Maybe I could hear your perspective on that topic.
Yeah, I think I'm totally on you for this. Because halfway through in my sporting career, so I happened to have a Norwegian coach. One thing that she shared with us was this: we were deciding, hey, is it a good idea to stop school and just focus on the sports? And she was quite against it. She was more for having a mix of both school and sports, or having something in between where you can switch your mind to it, so it helps you to stay focused when you are competing. This is something we saw that's more efficient when we start to race with the Thai team. So the Thai team was full-time athletes which train every day, whereas for us is we have to juggle school, and then when we come into training, it helps because we only have that much of time on the water. So we try to be more efficient by being focused on what we need to improve during that period of time. And slowly, I think when you go on to the senior level and competing, nearing to major competitions, you see people are training at lower volume, more focused on precisely what they need to do to help them set up to compete and do well or perform. So yeah, having that switch and helps you to be more efficient at a point in time and a sense of urgency.
So you noticed with the older athletes, maybe don't train as much, but they are very efficient with their training time. Okay. Maybe now that we've talked about your time as an athlete or windsurfer at 15, 16, let's bring you up a couple of years into your 17, 18, 19 years. Can you think back and share with us what were the highlights of that period of time for you, sports-wise and then studies-wise as well?
Yeah. So I think after going through secondary school, was transitioned into tertiary education, where you choose between junior college and poly. So that was when hey, which is better? One is that short 2 years, the other one 3 years with more specialized, giving you more opportunity to travel. So of course I chose the poly one,
Okay.
which was I think a blessing because got to travel a lot more overseas to compete.
Before, tell us about the thoughts around choosing the poly route. Do you recall whether it was a choice that you made on your own completely, or is it something that maybe your coach said, please go to the poly route, or did your parents weigh in as well? Did your friends say, hey, come with us to JC? What were some of the pressures you face around making that major transition decision? Right, it's a huge decision.
Yeah. So I think I can remember exactly the time where I received my O-level cert, and at least knowing what are the possible options.
Okay.
So it's quite funny. We were actually competing in Thailand when the result came out. So my parents were like, "Hey, got cheap tickets. It's only $120 to fly out to Thailand and back."
Oh.
Yeah. So they were like, they went to school. They helped me collect my cert, and then they flew out to pass me.
Your parents bought tickets to fly up to give you your O-level results.
Yeah, they were like, it's 120.
Okay.
It's okay.
Wow.
But so it's like, so they self-declare holiday and come out. So I remember that was very clear because they were like a good excuse for them to get a holiday or so.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So back then, okay, I think a lot of us will know that in junior college, it's good for people who can really mark very well. In a sense, study very hard at key points and then to do well in the exams because it's just one A level that decides it all.
Yeah.
Probably it's more of like people who have to go for the long run. They need to choose a specialization that they enjoy in, or they want to pursue it, and also those people are the kind that maybe they are not so good at studying, but they are very good at presenting and more hands-on. Yeah. So
what was your assessment when you got your results? What was your self-assessment at that time?
Okay, so I put the first choice for junior college, but I put it something that's really hard to go in.
What was the reason for doing that?
Because I know it's
Because it sounds like you didn't want to go.
okay, because I felt I was in between whether to choose both.
Okay.
Not too sure which one, to be honest. So I thought, hey, if that schools, which is something a bit hard to go in, the doors open, and if I go in, then I guess that's my pathway.
Okay.
If not, I'll go into poly because firstly, it's something that my parents aren't very comfortable in, but I feel it gives me the span.
What were they not comfortable with? If I may ask.
Okay, so I have two older sisters who went through junior college. It's a shorter route, they feel, and it helps you open doors into university. Whereas in poly, it's harder to go into university, the local use, and that's the assumption then.
Okay.
Of course, I think things has changed quite a bit recently. So that's a good thing.
Was it a difficult conversation with your parents about this major educational decision? And if so, how difficult was it?
Yeah, to be honest, it's not so tough. They will share their thoughts, but at the end of the day, most of the time they leave it to me to make the decision. Because I think this is something they believe it's my own life at the end of the day, and they may not be around all the time to say, hey, you should go here or there, but rather choose the path that you like. So that's the reason why I was able to switch from sailing to windsurfing, or even starting off with sailing at the start.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm very, very thankful for that.
Okay. So your parents were encouraging you to make the decision on your own.
Yeah.
Did you get any other comments, unwanted advice, or maybe even wanted advice from anybody else, from coaches, friends, about your educational decision?
So we have a few other teammates who are way older than me because it's quite a nice pool where we all of us of different age come together.
Okay.
So some of them like, hey, you go poly, you get more space out time to go and travel.
Okay.
And windsurf. Whereas the others was like, our concern and our Google, they say, hey, I think knowing the way you study and stuff, I think going to junior college will feel better.
Mm.
So total honest, our goodwill, sharing, which I was very grateful. At least they share their thoughts and kind of make the decision a lot harder and easier.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess when you just thought the hardest JC out there, so that it opens door means it opens.
Right.
If not, that means there'll be a second chance. Yeah.
So eventually you went to the poly route.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about that. You went to the poly route because you wanted to go, or was it because that JC did not let you in, or what?
Okay.
How was it decided? Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, like I say, like clearly I put the hardest JC means I don't want to go in, right? But yeah, I had in mind what course I wanted to go. I think in life it's not because that you know exactly what you want, but also sometimes in a point in time where different people inspire you. So back then I think my chemistry teacher kind of inspired me in the way that, hey, maybe we should try chemical engineering.
Okay.
Because one, it's always easier as an engineer to go into business than a business person to go into engineering. So that's how I rationalized with my parents that, hey, if I really need to go, I can always switch in that sense. Yeah. And it's more technical, science-based skill that is a lot easier than to, hey, I can't really quantify what are the skills that I have.
Okay. So you chose chemical engineering in poly.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about how poly life merged with your sports life, and how did it support your sporting pursuits?
So I think it was okay. There was quite a few lecturers who were very, very, very supportive. So I came up and told them honestly, like, hey, I'm going to compete and I'm going to study at the same time. So these are my travel schedules. Is it okay that I can travel?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you do this early in the season?
Yeah, early on, because that's why when I went to school, I had to I had this competition coming up and this competition coming up, and then had the honest conversation with them. So they were actually very nice. They were like, one is that they are willing to, when I come back and the classes I miss, they'll help find extra time to guide me through for those. So that's one thing. I think the second thing was that the first thing they told me, and I remember it very clearly, it's like, hey, and whether you finish at the age of 19, 20 or 21 when you finish your poly, it doesn't really matter, because missing out 1 or 2 years of your workforce timing, hey, at the end of the day, you get to enjoy life a bit longer. Yeah, so I think that was...
So this was advice from your poly lecturer?
Yeah,
okay.
Early on. So I was like, wow, okay, I didn't expect that to come, but yeah, maybe I took it a bit too much, and I was like, okay, let's start to travel a bit more. So I think my schoolmates was like, what? Out of 18 weeks, you're away for the worst was 12 weeks. So I could go off for 3 weeks, come back for 1 week school, go off for 3 weeks, come back for 1 week school.
Where were you traveling to this period?
Yeah, so I think some of it was we had the opportunity to train into Taiwan, and then leading up to different games, so we go for a few training camps and then go for the games.
So your your schoolmates were teasing you about that?
Yeah, but I guess it works in both ways, because when you come back your mind is fresh, so you kind of focus on, and suddenly you start to realize that, hey, instead of having 3 weeks of lessons, just sitting down in the office with your lecturer for 2 hours is a lot more efficient. Where we talk about the efficiency of training, and going to Thailand and competing with our counterparts, we see that growth and the gap closing. So I think that was wow, okay. Of course, not every lectures are so nice to spend time, so I was very grateful for that.
So what were the major competitions when you were in poly life for you at that time?
So in poly life, the major competitions I was quite fortunate to go for a few. So two of which are the youth ones. One Asian Games in China, and also the Olympic test event and the Olympic qualifiers for 2012 London Olympics. So I think those were quite key major milestone in the sports itself.
Okay. And so it was just school life where you traveled quite a bit sometimes, and you had very supportive lecturers who helped you catch up.
Yeah.
And that's how you balanced.
Yeah.
And you were very efficient with the time when it came to studies.
But I guess one of the challenge in poly was that because you're transiting from the two youth events, the two youth world into the men's category for the 2012 Olympics. So maybe I'll give you a time frame to give you a mental model first. So finished O-level at 08, 2009 to 2012. So that's the 3 years of poly. That's where 9 and 10 was the youth class, and then at the end of 10, you transit over to the men's class and compete for 2011, 2012.
Right.
So I think that was the key highlight, where having all these events, but being able to transit over was really tough.
Okay. So you did the poly as a 3-year program, right? You didn't have to stretch it out. And at that time, you made the major transition from youth to men's.
Yeah.
So now looking back again, how was that transition for you? How did you experience it? How do you recall it now?
Yes.
It's a step up, right?
Yeah. So I remember 2010 after. Okay, so 2010 was like in the middle of the year, it was crazy high. Meaning, going for my first European youth event. Just being there alone because some of my teammates couldn't go out there because timeline was too short. So we went in and compared like out of 100 over, 120. I remember just missing top 10 on the 11th, which was quite good because I never expected that result.
Yeah.
So that was like a crazy high. It's like, hey, I can do anything. Everything is possible. So that was in June 2010 to in September when you realize that, hey, I need to switch over to the men's class already.
Right.
Going out this time round to prepare for the Asian Games at the end of 2010. Competing with men who are like so much fitter, so much faster. Finishing races at last fields in the Europeans and the Worlds. That was like, wow, a crazy high to down low.
Right. From thinking that you were one of the best in the world at youth level, and then going to the men's and then realizing, whoa.
Like, I wouldn't thought the transition would be that big from like close to top 10 to last few and then getting my ass kicked all the way through.
How did you react emotionally?
I guess it's just like, just keep going. Because I think in poly point of time, the mindset was always to like, hey, let's see whether it's possible to qualify for the Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the thought of it.
Okay. So that was your motivation.
Yeah.
Never mind, just keep going.
Yeah.
Olympics.
Just like, hey, let's try for it. And anyway, I'm in poly already. There's no reason to like just quit the sport. Just I enjoy the privilege of traveling and skipping school. So
that's why I'm interviewing you now, because I can never interview someone who's skipping school all the time. They will never say this.
It's like, I cannot tell your teachers all this until when you finish and you pass it.
That's right. Now you can say whatever you wanted to say 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Olympic journey, since we are now at that point, right? You are gunning for the Olympics.
So I guess at the end of 2010, leading up to 2011 was one of the toughest part of time because you're always going overseas to compete and travel and race, and then you just see yourself in the leaderboard at the bottom field. Because naturally, Singapore doesn't have strong winds. These people have a huge team of really good people to train with, which that's why when I was in the youth, I was very thankful that I was training with people who are way better and way older than me, which helps breaks up. But on the flip side is that just have to be out there to pick it up and slowly climb up. Yeah. So it's just like a restart to go on. I think what was happening is that at the end of that 1.5 year, in Perth itself, I think that was where I really started to see the results. It was getting from bottom of the fleet, you slowly move up to mid fleet in conditions which usually Singaporeans do really badly, which are strong winds.
Okay. So you saw improvement,
Yeah.
even though you were at the bottom of the table, so to speak.
Yeah.
You started to see yourself climb up the ladder.
Yeah. And I was grateful that during that year that we had a team of teammates of windsurfers who actually travel to this event and compete together. And also just purely going there. And even though it was tough, I think the people makes a difference, and having the fun of whatever situation you're in, just to enjoy it.
Right.
Helps a lot.
So even though it was an individual sport,
Mm.
having a team around you,
Mm.
teammates, of course coaches, that made a difference for you.
Yeah, I think having a team is the biggest benefit, because I think on days that you're not going fast or things that you feel like, hey, they're lethargic, that's where they're the one who pull you up because they're doing better, and then you're just understanding, hey, why are they doing better? And you pick the techniques from there.
So as you started climbing the ladder, what was the next thing that happened to you that was a highlight for you?
Okay, so I think it was like crazy high when you hit like, hey, in Perth that was the first qualifiers, so you saw yourself like still within the range of qualifying, though you miss out on the first time round. There's a second round in Spain to do it, so that's where like, okay, let's train up towards that. Went to Spain, totally lost it. The winds was too crazy. Didn't qualify. Have to go into the army. So that was kind of the end of the journey.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2012.
Okay, so your last chance to qualify, that was, you missed it,
Yeah,
and then army comes up.
yeah. Army comes up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember that feeling? Like, okay, I have to go to the army now. End of my sports for a while.
Yeah, I guess.
How did you feel?
It's okay because so this is something I remember very clearly, sitting down with both my coaches and my team manager. We were talking just with a few months before going army, that we're talking about supports and all this, like making sure there's a pathway and support, and reviewing the past 1.5 years. So the thing was like, hey, I mean, even though we missed out 2012, let's try 2016.
What was your reaction when they said that?
I said, that was the rebel. I told them, hey, we can go for 2016.
Oh, you told them you
Yeah.
want to try 2016.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think something they told, I think it's just a statement at that point in time, because it's a very factual thing that they see. A lot of people that go into army, leave the sport, that's it, full stop, and never came back.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. A lot of youth athletes do very well, see the potential in them doing well in the men's, and then go in the army and left the sport. So I guess that was one of the conversations that we had, like, hey, will you come back after that?
They were asking you when you come back after NS.
Yeah, I can't really remember the specific reason why we're having that chat over there, but I remember we're talking about all these points. So I could told them like, hey, yeah, I want to come back. I want to do that, but I'm not going to try to do sailing and army at the same time.
You're not going to.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your rationale?
What's the rationale? Okay, this one you have to take offline. No? I don't get caught by the.
Why? Are you going to tell me something illegal?
No. Okay, this is.
Hard to say. Out
Okay,
loud.
this is the honest truth in Singapore. I mean, if the government asks you to go into the army, and then trying to mix army and then doing your sport, it will be very disruptive, because a lot of times you can't travel overseas because you are in army. And then secondly, it's also having your mind in two different places but not going forward. It's quite tiring. So I think one of my teammates who actually shared this with me before, he went to army for me, and he says that, hey, just go there and focus on what you need to do there.
In NS.
In
Just
NS.
focus on
Yeah.
NS stuff.
Yeah, because you can't, it's like working full time and then you can't ask for time off and skipping training and expect yourself to go forward. So, come on, stuff. Just stick with it.
Okay.
Yeah, don't try to like fight it sometimes.
So you just went to NS, you just did NS, and that was it.
Yeah, just clear that 1 year, 8 months.
So in other words, there was no sailing, no serious sailing of any shape or form.
No.
Not even recreationally.
There is recreation, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kept with the sport, but recreationally.
Yeah, just go and fun. Halfway through when we had to clear leave, just go overseas to Vietnam just to windsurf, and that was good fun. Remember going with Phuket with my teammates who already finished their army and stuff. So just going out there and race and just for fun of it.
Yeah. So Leonard, I was hearing you talk about how NS was a point where a lot of people who were national athletes with very high potential, and NS just makes them maybe rethink their sport, and then a lot of them drop out. What's your observation of that? Seeing how others drop out. Maybe you could talk about that, and then what was your own decision about returning to high performance sport?
Yeah, I think within Singapore itself, it's a common agreement that a lot of people do very well in their youth phase, after which NS is like a break of their momentum, and then they either try to mix of do both NS and their sports and continue on, or a lot of them just decide to stop from there and just focus on doing well in life in other areas. Yeah. I think for me it's that during
Before you go to your reasons, may I just ask, what are your observations of people who drop out after NS? What do you think are the common themes that emerge? Why do people drop out, even though they had potential?
I think it's sometimes they look at it more in terms of a global perspective. That if you miss out 2 years of your athletic career and trying to climb back up to compete with the world stage, I think that's quite hard. Yeah.
So, given that perspective, how did that impact you? What was your decision?
Knowing though that I missed out on time, but I think before that, going to NS, the thought of wanting to actually continue on thereafter and just trying for it, it's one, has been within me, and two, it's that I think just nice when I was about to finish my NS, I think a door opened up where after I expressed interest, like, hey, I want to continue on and try it out. I think we was given a chance to go into China to train with the Chinese athletes, which are known to be very, very good. And also there's a huge team of people there which you can pick up skills from and learn from them.
So you were internally, intrinsically motivated. You wanted to come back.
Yeah.
You wanted to give it a shot again.
Yeah.
And this opportunity to train with the Chinese
Mm.
was a good incentive to also continue.
Yeah, because that creates the opportunity of a training environment that could help accelerate the growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about that phase, coming back into training, high performance training. What was the adjustment like?
That was tough, man. Yeah.
How tough was it? What was so painful about that time that will stay with you for the rest of your life?
Okay, I think the funny thing is in army so I was an officer then, so you lead them and do stuff. It's a lot easier because you really have a whole team to do things and you just guide people through. But suddenly when you go back down to like, hey, we're starting from the base, and when things get tough, instead of usually in the army as an officer you become a cheerleader, this time around you just got to cheerlead yourself all the way through as you go through the training. Yeah. And sometimes when we went to China to train, I think the goal was very clear. It's to perform well in 2015 SEA Games in Singapore itself. Yeah. So that helps, at least as a goal point. But during that goal point, it was quite tough because firstly, you are training with people who are so much better than you. So naturally, you see there's a huge gap. And I think some athletes will definitely feel it, even in Singapore when you train the guys that are older and they are so fast, and they're like, hey, is it even possible to catch up? Or am I just so lousy? And the truth is, no, you're not lousy, and it takes a long time just to even move forward.
This was how training with the Chinese made you feel.
Yes, that's the honest truth.
Really lousy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if we do a 2-lap competition, it feels like I just finished 1 lap and then they just finish everything already. Like, dude.
And then they all look at you, waiting for you to finish.
Yeah, they're just like enjoying their drinks, chit-chatting and stuff. Yeah, I was like, wow, that was tough.
Okay. And so there were I suppose, a lot of expectations too on you because it's a home games. How were you dealing with that? What were the expectations? How did you deal with that?
I think it helps a lot when you know that, hey, this is your end point, but being so far away, it gives you the chance to say, hey, okay, this is my end point where I want to go to at the end of the day. At each point in time, what are the things I need to do and improve so I can get better to reach that point. So I remember starting out with the Chinese training in June 2014. So that was tough. Head on to October 2014. Results were bad. It's like, oh shit, so far away from that. Yeah. So that got me thinking, and I'm thinking of, hey, what are the specific areas that really needs to improve on to actually do well based on Singapore conditions, and then let's go and learn and pick that up. So that helps because with that refresh in mind in October and November, that period, it was very helpful because that's what happened. They have the All China Games there, which is a big event for them. All the Chinese from different states coming together and compete, and that's where I realized that training was a lot more, I'll say, efficient and progressive because of that point in time where you feel so lousy and you relook and think of the specific things that you need to work on and just go out there and focus on those stuff. So that's where I saw the gap kind of close up a lot more.
Oh, you took part in the China National Games?
No, but I trained with them for that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that one is like they're all games. So I trained with them all the way until just before the games, then I leave.
I see.
Yeah, so that helps because when you have so many people there, and then when you know specifically what you need to learn, and you see yourself growing up, that helps. Secondly, is also I think the Chinese are very sweet. They'll be like, I remember 3 months ago I see you, right? You're so far away. Now at least I still can smell you. I was like, okay, thanks, thank you very much. But I mean that's encouraging because you're getting closer, and they say, though it sounds really funny, but it helps out. It helps a lot to know that, hey, whatever hard work you put in is progressing forward. Even though not there yet, but still better.
So the investment of 3 months? How long was it in China?
In China, so we're in and out every month.
Okay.
In and out. We do that all the way up to 2 months before the games in Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that paid off.
that pays off.
Okay. So tell me about the SEA Games, the experience, the home games. How was that? The
Yeah.
expectations and the targets.
Yeah, so I think in the home games, going to the games knowing that it's tough because, which I think I shared with you before, Thailand and Indonesia, they are very strong. Some of them are Asian champions and stuff. So, but having a small pool of people fighting on for one spot, it's a slightly different game. And that's where I thought, okay, it is possible, go for it. Though they are good, you guys will fight hard. But in the mind, always thinking of like, hey, I just need to get first. I think that's not very healthy.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think this is what I feel at the start. It's always just enjoy what you do, and then when the result comes in, that helps a lot. But when you're just focusing on results, you throw everything out and you make illogical decisions when you race, and putting unnecessary stress to really think things through clearly.
So there was an expectation for you to be first, to win the gold, and you think that has, in some ways, made you make not efficient or not good decisions.
Yeah, and make bad decisions that are big risks into it.
Yeah. So you took risks
In the competition itself, yeah.
and didn't pay off.
Yeah.
So how was it? What happened when you didn't pull off the goal in the home games? What was the feeling around it, and what were all the comments? I'm sure it was not easy.
Okay, I think people around in the sports scene itself, they were very nice because they know that firstly it's not easy. Secondly is I was very grateful that my teammate she won the goal, so I was like, solid. Yeah, that was tough, and she won it at the final race. It's like neck to neck battle, so that was good. So I was like really happy for her, and on my side, it's like, hey, so grateful that a lot of them were like, hey, don't worry, it's tough, but getting a second is good.
Yeah, it's tough when you have the home games and people's expectations are sometimes sky high.
Yeah. But of course, it reached a point where you question yourself, like, hey, it's 2016 real. Yeah, it's like, is it possible or what? So,
Okay.
That's where the point of time I decided, like, hey, I think it's time to go back to school.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because after NS, right, you now have the decision to make about university.
Yeah.
And then there's Olympics. Maybe you could share with us what happened with regard to school and the Olympics.
So after the after NS, I decided to take a gap year to focus on windsurfing itself, because the opportunity opens up to go into China to train, which means we'll be there for a month, come back for a week, go back there again just to stay refreshed. Makes it very hard to study. Yeah. And juggle both, because I think sometimes in life, even though it's good to have both, you have to weigh the option when you have only this opportunity to go and train with the top few people. I think sometimes you just need to go out there and seize it.
So you were willing after NS to say, let's take another year off to just dedicate to training full time with the 2015 SEA Games in mind.
Yeah.
So once SEA Games was out of the way, what were the options for you?
So I was like, okay, I think it's time to just go back to school. I guess when you're at that point where you know, okay, you did well, you want to get where you want to go, but you don't get it. I think sometimes it's just good to give yourself some space. I think school helps, and that's where I was very thankful. We embarked on a new project where we try to bring and revive NTU Windsurfing Club. Yeah, so a few of the other windsurfers who happened to be in the same school, after I found out, I was like, okay, let's try it out and let's build a club. So I think the mentality shift from just purely racing to like, hey, what are the things and how can we grow this club itself?
Okay. So you went to NTU with mechanical engineering?
No, business.
Business.
Yeah.
Okay. So you decided to do business at NTU. So university and high performance training, what was the experience for you in university?
Yeah, so it's slightly different from poly where you can do the last minute study. People there are a lot smarter. You have to really study in advance and stuff like that. Yeah, so it was quite painful because halfway through, it's like, okay, let's take a 2 weeks break and go to Japan to compete. And when I came back, I was like, wow, this is hard to catch up. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's okay. That's where the key thing is, this is something our high performance back then when I was doing my O level taught us. Hey, it's okay to take breaks to study for your exam and stuff like that and be out of the sport. Because like riding a bike, you always know how to come back in thereafter. The challenging part will be the level of fitness.
Okay.
If your level of fitness drop and to bring back up, that takes time. So the key thing is to maintain the fitness, even though you do other things. And when you come back on, you just need to sharpen your skills again.
So how did you keep your fitness going, even though you were focusing on studying and not high performance training?
Yeah, that's where you have the team of people where you're trying to build the windsurfing club. You have your own workout, and I think even up to today, even stopping from the sports itself for quite a while, fitness is something that is a lifestyle, so we're still continuing on.
So what were your major events that you were shooting for when you were in NTU? And what was it like juggling studies and high performance training?
Okay, so it just only for that one semester, that half the year in 2015, it was just to just go back to school and just enjoy school.
Right.
And pick from there out.
Just focus on school.
Focus on school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sports just
Sports
took a
is-
backseat.
Took a backseat. Still do it, but not full on training every weekday and finding like as crazy as back then when we were in China.
Yeah.
But I guess that helps because it's a different break on switching from last time I shared with you on the day-to-day or week-to-week or month-to-month basis. Now it's just a period of time where you switch, okay, break from sailing, come back to sailing again thereafter in December. Yeah, so in December I was like, okay, let's do it again. This time around, can we have the opportunity to go back into China and train? So we gotten a chance to, though my coach won't be able to join us. It'll be just me alone go up there. But if the door open, then just seize it because
So this is in your first year at NTU. The chance to go back to China, the train came up,
yeah, as in
and you wanted to go.
actually this time around it's a bit different. This time around it's after studying a while and rethinking of things. That's where you have the clarity of mind, and then that comes in where hey, do I really want to give it a try for the last phase of the Olympics? And I think within me is the answer is still yes.
Okay.
So how?
So the motivation to go to the Olympics reasserted itself
Yeah,
when you were in first year of NTU,
yeah,
and you said you want to give it a shot.
yeah.
So what was the decision you made at that point?
So it's to go back, and the first thing in mind is that how do you qualify for it?
Okay.
So in March itself, there's the qualifiers. There's a World Championship just before that, leading up, and that's in February. So what do I do now in December till then?
Okay.
So
This is
that's
December 2015
2015
to
to
March
March
2016,
2016.
which is about 3-4 months before
Yeah.
Rio Olympics.
Yeah, so that's the decision point. So I was thinking, hey, okay, let's go and focus on training. Stop school for once because this is just your final lap already.
So take a leave of absence.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's the final laps. I think you need to be a bit more precise on what you want and take a risk in that sense
Right.
for another half year.
Okay.
So that's where at a point in time in December, it's like, should I stay in Singapore and train or should what's the best option? So the goal is to try my luck to see whether I can go into China and train first. And then come back, we had training camps with the Thai team, go into the World Championship in Israel, and then lastly go into Abu Dhabi for the qualifiers.
Okay.
So I think that was the plan, was to try to open as much training doors as you can with people who are way better than you to pick that up.
So you train with the Chinese, you train with the Thais.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened at Abu Dhabi?
Um,
The qualifiers.
I think this time around it's like SEA Games happen again, but slightly different. Slightly different. I think in life it's always nice that to have failures in a sense because it sets you up for bigger success, I guess. So back then, instead of going to the games, I was just thinking of like, hey, I want to qualify in what? It's just like, hey, let's think of a logical thing of what you need to do on each race itself. Just take one race at a time.
So you didn't want to repeat the mistake of the SEA Games in Singapore. You were just thinking how to get the goal, how to get the goal.
Yeah, so just like, just race one race at a time, just do your best. If it comes, it comes, if it doesn't comes. So, yeah, I think in the first 2 days were like really bad. It's like, there's only one slot in the qualifiers, and there are 7 countries fighting for it.
Well, and one qualifying Olympic spot.
Yeah, 1. Sorry, 2.
2.
But 1 is for sure taken already because one of the countries is really strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone's shooting for second place in other words.
Yeah. So that was hilarious. Yeah, so I think that one, when the first 2 days of the competition, out of a 7 days competition, kind of far back behind on the 6th position out from it. But as the saying goes, it's just take one race at a time, just grow one position at a time and let things be. So I think that helps through the competition, so I slowly climb back up and focus on things that you can control rather than on the Olympics. But
so you were 5th or 6th after the second day?
Yeah, in terms of country ranking.
And after that, 3rd, 4th day?
That slowly goes up. So I think on the 4th, I can't remember exactly the details.
It's okay.
Yeah.
As you remember it?
Yeah. So on the 4th day, it was like it was quite close, about 3 to 4.
Okay. Within smelling distance?
Yeah. And then on the final day, it was just me and the Indonesian fighting it off
for the last second spot.
Yeah. Okay. So that was quite funny.
Tell us about that last race every weekend. Ended on that note.
So I think the last race was quite hilarious. I was staying in the same room as my coach, and then at 4:30 a.m., both of us we turned to each other. You haven't sleep, right?
Oh, you didn't sleep?
Both of us
were.
Night? Yeah, both of us were like.
Last race.
Yeah, we slept and then we woke up I think it's a bit too early. And
obviously can't sleep properly.
Yeah, and the heart is pounding, but I think when you go out there, it's just back to the basic on. He's the person that you need to find on. What are the things you need to do to make sure that he doesn't win you? So stay close to you, and then because before our race, there's the ladies who started, so you're able to read the condition on which side is better and stuff like that. And no matter what, just stick with him all the way through, but just be in front of him.
Okay.
Yeah, so we stick to that until a point in time when he's a bit further away, then we just pull off. Okay. So that helps. It's just simplify things, keep to your race plan, and stick with it. So then trust your gut feeling.
Recall that feeling when you beat your closest competitor and you got that last qualifying spot. Can you recall what happened? How you felt that day?
I think it's grateful because I think one is teammates and coaches. I think they're the one who stick by you through the hardest time where just finished NS. Pick up is so tough, but they're always there around to help you find ways to improve. So really grateful for my coach and my teammates, parents. Yeah, and not just thankful, but it's surreal.
Surreal.
Yeah.
So on the day you qualified and became an Olympian, you flooded with feelings of gratefulness for your family, your teammates, and also feels a bit surreal.
Yeah, but when you had that split second to look back, I think it's very nice how at the start when we talk about 15 years old, all the doors opens up nicely at the right timing, going to China into training and getting defeated in SEA Games and kind of stuff helps a lot.
So I guess maybe just to ask you one last question is, if you look back at your long journey as an athlete, as a sailor, how did you cope? How do you think you managed to cope? What were your best coping mechanisms? Did it change over time, or did you find a unique Leonard Ong style of coping with life as life hits you, training at a high level, coping with studies, coping with NS, coping with not meeting expectations? How did you cope?
It falls back to a few fundamentals. One is, I think just before going to 27 SEA Games in Thailand, when you compete with the men, it's about just enjoying the sport that you do. Because, I mean, with all this highlight day in, day out, it's the routine of training. And if you don't enjoy that, so what if you reach the top? It doesn't mean anything. Secondly, it's just grateful for the people around that at times where you really need support, people just come into your life in that sense at the right time along the way. So I think that helps a lot. Like at the age of 14, a new coach come in poly when transition, just before transition, had a new coach, a Norwegian coach who came in and gives that perspective. Leading up to the final phase, the doors open in China, a different coach came in, which had a lot of experience also, that helps me to. They come in at the right time, I guess. If they come in a bit too early, I guess it doesn't shape the way I am. If they come in a bit too late, the skills they impart may not be what I need to create that lift at that point in time. So I think it's a very timely. Yeah. For that, right?
One last question. What was it that your parents did for you that you think was really very helpful, or you found it very encouraging? What was it that they did or said?
I think it's being supportive in whatever decision I've made along the way. And always being around and supporting.
Great.
They are super supportive. As in this interview, I never said anything much about them, but other than the fact that they flew up to Thailand for the cert, but yeah, if I were to say, I think that would take another 10 hours. Yeah, it's a lot.
That's great. Leonard, on that note, thank you very much for sharing with us your journey as an athlete and as someone navigating a sometimes very complicated and very stressful academic system, and of course the challenge of NS, the fact that you came back after NS. It's a very rare thing as well. So thanks for taking the time
Thanks
today.
for having me today.
So Leonard, thanks for coming back again to share your story. I think we spent an hour and a half the last time, and we covered quite a bit of ground. Then I realized we only just got to the Olympics, but we didn't even get a chance, to talk about the Olympics. But before we get there, looking back from that conversation we had, what stood out for you from that conversation that perhaps if we hadn't had the conversation, you may not have thought about? Did anything jump out at you from that conversation? Was it good to go back quite far?
I think it's really about being grateful for the people that were in each phase of the journey, from secondary school down to when I was in poly, and then thereafter going to NS, which is a nice downtime, and then coming back into the games.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the whole alignment was very nice, and I think it's a good memory that sometimes it sounds crazy at the start, like to have this kind of big dreams and just hoping for it, but not knowing where you're heading to, but seeing everything line up when you just look back at it.
I note that you talk about the relationships, the people that helped you along the way. You didn't talk about anything else, but that was the first most important thing for you. You look back at all the people who have helped you. What was it about their support that really struck you? And maybe you can pick up one or two people first, about their support that really made a difference to you.
Yeah. Okay, I think first one it's probably the coaches that I had. Each of them kind of opened new doors of opportunities. Train the way, not just the way I work on the water, but also the way we think through things, which kind of like bring on to what we do in life nowadays after sports. So for example, I think for my first coach, TC, I think it's amazing how he could come in and then taking a squad, which I think back then if you really look at us, it's what we call no hope, just kids going around having fun. But he's managed to really bring opportunities for us to go overseas and race, like the youth wars, going to the SEA Games, getting equipment to train on. That's something that, in terms of groundwork, it's not easy, especially it's not his full-time job back then.
How old were you when you first started training under him?
That was like 13, that was 14.
Through the eyes of a 13, 14-year-old, what was it about your coach that made the difference to you, the positive difference, looking back now? Because you're dealing with an adult, right?
Yeah.
You're probably half his size at that time, and maybe one-third his age. Can be quite intimidating.
Yeah.
What was positive?
I think it's wealth of experience, being able to manage different stakeholders. So imagine us like kids, kind of like there's no potential per se, but he's able to see that within us. He's able to articulate the opportunities both to the management and also to us to actually set a mindset that there's so much possibility within us. And I think the biggest positivity thing is the ability to enjoy the sports. Yeah, because I think you can feel that he loved it a lot when he first started coaching. So it's more of he's coaching it because he just want to give back and see us grow, rather than because of the pay or because of the prestige, because clearly both are not there and that's not his day job.
And how did you react to that kind of positivity when you were under him?
I guess it's infectious in the sense that you kind of grow to love the sport. Like for example, I think because he's a slalom sailor, which slalom means like they go for speed and they do a lot of like quick turns like the slalom skiing down the slopes, similar on the water. So when it comes to the northeast monsoon between December to January, that's where you get really strong wind in Singapore, rainy season. And that's where you just see us being out there enjoying ourselves. Which is fun. Yeah.
And who else? Who are the other people that you recall very strongly even after all this time?
Yeah, I think secondly it's also my second coach, my Norwegian coach. I think there are three key things that really struck into my mind. Firstly, she always tell me like, Leonard, follow your heart, not the mind. I think in life that's kind of helped me make a lot of different decisions. At times you might think it's not logical, like leaving school and then going full on in the last phase, or continue on after NS when people say, hey, I think it's time to focus on career and stuff like that. So that's one. Secondly is also when she was training us, she was like 42 years old. So thinking back now at age of 29, people around my age would be like, hey, I'm feeling old, here's aching, that's painful. I think I'm going to get all these sicknesses and stuff. But then you rethink about things. When recently I went back on the water, and I was like, hey, what are they talking about? If a 40-year-old lady can windsurf with us, train with us equally as hard, both on the water and in the gym, and still coach and campaign for, back then, it's the London Olympics. I don't think where we are now is an excuse. It's more really the mentality of how we think about ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she gave you a very positive example of adulthood,
Yeah.
even middle age.
It's exactly, and I think it's also the environment where she's being brought up. So I remember I went over to their place in Norway for training, and she told me like, hey, her mom just came back from 120 km bike ride. And I was like, how young is she? And she's like 70. So it's like, what? And I think the best part of all is that she teaches spinning classes, the mom. It may be not for the young folks, but hey, I think at their age, 70 years old, on the bike, teaching you. Yeah, I guess it's the environment that brought out, and when we really think through about all this, I think it opens a lot more doors of opportunities. And what is about growing older, per se, or growing wiser.
How old were you then when you were under her?
That was when I was 16 to about 19.
Okay. Now, if you look back at that period, again, 13 to 19, what were some of the very difficult challenges you had to go through? Really negative. Even now, looking back, it's really could be really hard to think about.
It's a bit far. I don't feel the pain as much now, but I guess it's the transition when you go from youth into man. I think that was the hardest transition phase, because when we end off youth, it was quite a high position where you think things are impossible and things are possible and nothing is impossible per se. And then suddenly you go into man category and get your ass whooped by people who are like super experienced.
Okay.
So I guess the ability to stay motivated and continue on training, I think that was the part that was challenging.
Okay.
But I think I was quite privileged per se to overcome that challenge. I think a lot of doors open along the way.
So maybe we can just dwell a little bit on that part, because as we know, people drop out of sport, and some of the reasons are because the transition is too much. They go to a higher level and they decide that's it. Let's not suffer anymore.
Yeah.
What do you think made you continue? Was it a person? Was it a coach that said something to you? Was it your parents? Was it something deep inside you? Maybe a variety of reasons. Maybe not just one thing.
Yeah, I think the good thing is that I was in a position where I think it was the second year of poly, so it's like neither here nor there. So I guess maybe if it was the last year of poly and then you transit over and then thereafter NS, it makes a very natural choice of like, just leave.
Okay.
Second year of poly, I guess that's where you start to like, it's still halfway through things, and there isn't really a clear reason why to stop. But hey, just continue on, because I guess we've been there before, per se. In 2007 for the SEA Games, where it was like me 15 years old versus people who have windsurfed longer than I have lived. So I guess it's a time to build up. But secondly, it's that even though with the mentality and all this, like we've been there before, what matters most is the open doors that come along the way. For example, that was a very nice timely position where my local coach turned on full time, and they gave us the opportunity to travel overseas into Europe for the whole summer season. So that was when you're like, oh, okay, you can travel again, why not? And getting the opportunity to train and race with people who are better.
So you had a full-time coach, and you were in the second year of poly.
Yeah.
And so it was a good time to transition into the men's during a period where it's not intense in terms of graduating criteria and NS looming next year. So timing was crucial, and as well as open doors.
And I think one last thing, it's when you really think through about it, it's also because when you have all this opportunity, you also have a team that's going through the whole journey together.
Okay.
So it's not too bad.
A team, meaning?
Like a Singapore team, a whole team.
Okay. And how many were in your team at that time going through this together?
I think there's about, I can't remember the exact number, but I think there's about 10 of us at least.
Okay.
When we're overseas, there's about 6 to 7. And I think that's really good considering in the final few years of the campaign, it's usually only 2% excluding my coach.
Right.
Or sometimes it's me alone with my coach or what. So I think that
makes a lot of difference, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're training overseas, being there just by yourself and a coach, that can be quite a lonely journey as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think with people around which going through the same path, I think that helps a lot. So teammates are the ones. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess the key is the teammates.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So I think if we now switch focus and talk a little bit about the Olympic side of it. When you look back now, when you think about your Olympic journey, what stands out for you? What comes up all the time for you?
I guess there's 3 parts to it. The first part is re-entering from army and then restarting the whole journey leading up to Olympics. That was painful. That was really painful. I think that was more painful than transiting from youth to men. Yeah, that was like from army, not doing anything for 2 years, going to train almost full time and then getting your ass whooped by people who are younger than you in China.
Okay. So the pain was more psychic than physical, or because you say that younger people are beating you, it's psychologically painful. Also.
I think psychologically painful, and also you see them just pull away. It's like, what am I doing with life? I mean that's the honest thought when it comes through. Like, what are you doing with life? Like doing all this. But I guess the beauty of it is that when you have people who are like so far ahead, so much better than you, and then you're training with them, that helps you naturally pull yourself up. And because I guess in a good way they are willing to share. Not sure is it because I'm not a threat to them at all, since I'm the last, so it's not going to make a difference. But I think naturally they're also very, very kind-hearted people. So
this is the time when you spent 6 months, was it, in China?
Yeah, so it was like continuously 1 month in, 1 week back, 1 month in, 1 week back, that kind of thing, for a long duration. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it also helped because there's a team of people to train together, so that makes a lot of difference.
Okay. So that's the first part of your Olympic journey.
Yeah.
And you say that it was even more painful than going from youth to senior levels.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a challenge because of the physical conditioning required to get back to high level sport.
Yeah.
So that's part 1. Then what's part 2?
I think part 2 is really my coach. So I think I mentioned 2 coaches already. The third one it's a Thai coach. So his nationality is Thai. He used to coach for the Thai team, and then I was very privileged to have him with me on the last phase, because that's where he gives a lot more technical advice, and he's very sharp on it because that's second nature. and he's always just having fun wherever he goes. Yeah, so I think that helps a lot. I always like, hey, let's go party and stuff like that. But yeah, that's him. I think it makes things more enjoyable. And I guess he's very caring because it brings back to the point where you transit from youth to men. And I was in Denmark alone. So I kind of texted him, and he was coaching the Thai team back then. Then he was like, hey, just come and stay with us. I'll cover your transportation and everything. So I was very, very grateful for that. Yeah.
Okay. I guess you talking about the Thai coach, and then you had a Norwegian coach as well. Maybe you could think about or share a bit about how the experience of having multinational coaches. What difference do you think that made for you? So you had TC, right? You had a Singaporean coach, and then a Norwegian, and then a Thai.
Yeah.
What's that experience like?
Very cool accents.
Okay, that's true.
And I learned a bit of Thai also. I guess it's because each of them are at different part of the world where they see things differently. So it shapes the perspective. Like for example, how my Norwegian coach at the age of 42 still do what she does. My Thai coach also, at the age of 40, he still like do all the crazy gym stuff with us, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get 6-pack, and then we keep asking him where's the 6-pack after so long.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he blames it on the beer. But it's okay. But yeah, I think that's the fun part about having different coaches from different nationality coming in with different perspective to life and shaping the way we are.
Okay. Okay. So I guess you took from your Norwegian coach a love of competing all the way through to middle age, and I guess your Thai coach was a fun-loving coach.
Yeah.
Sounds like made a lot of difference to your training that way.
Yeah. Lots.
So that's part 2 with the Thai coach. Okay. Then what's the third part of your Olympic journey?
I think the third part is the qualifiers.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Yeah, because the qualifiers was in Abu Dhabi, and there's only 2 slots for men to qualify for the Olympics, of which one is kind of confirmed because the Thai team are there. They didn't qualify in the main one. So naturally, in terms of Asian standing, they are one of the highest, excluding China and Japan and Hong Kong, and Korea, which all then qualify already.
Okay.
So they are like, for sure will get it. So then there are like 8 countries fighting for 1 slot.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was, I think, one of the most memorable.
And your biggest rival was the Thai guy?
No, the Thai guy is like they are on their own already.
Okay.
Then for sure, first is for them. Second would be a fight between Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Taiwan, who was 2 or 3 time Olympian, Oman. I think India was there, and the other I can't remember.
It's okay.
But yeah, I think this is the key part where I think at least 5 of us or 6 of us were in close contention to qualifying. It was a 6-day qualifiers. So how it works is we race for 10 races, and then we go for a final race. There is a double point system back then.
So what was your state of mind going into the qualifier?
Just do it, and I really don't know the outcome. Yeah, so just go for it. So I think I remember the first 2 days was really bad. Position standing, I still kept the result somewhere in my phone because it's a good reminder. Because the first 2 days was like 5th in terms of nation standing. So Thailand first, someone, and then me. So it's like I think it's kind of impossible. That kind of thoughts run through your mind, like, is this possible? Is this like what am I doing here?
Right.
That kind of thought, like, okay. But I think deep down inside, it's like the thought of, just don't worry, just focus on the process and just let the result go. Don't worry about where you are at each race, but just remember at where you are, just see what you can do within your control to catch up a little bit. So I think that
How anxious were you after the first 2 days, or during the first 2 days when you were behind?
so the surprising thing was I wasn't anxious.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's a very, very strange feeling. Like, it's a bad position to be in terms of factual results, but emotionally it was like, it's okay, just take it one step at a time. Don't worry about the results, that one you can't control about it, but just focus on the process itself. Yeah. So
Would you say that you were usually this calm?
nowhere.
No.
Nowhere.
Okay.
I think I'm not sure. Maybe it's I've been through the same position. SEA Games is like, okay, I'm gonna get first. And I think we talked about that the last time around, and then it kind of like crashed, and it doesn't really work that way. So I'm not sure whether is it because growth from experience or just that piecing.
So you find that you were much calmer as a older, more experienced athlete.
I don't know. It just happened at that point in time I was quite calm. So that one I really don't know how to answer this. Yeah. So I just go through the process and then slowly climb back up. So if I'm not wrong,
What were the expectations for you at the qualifier?
so nobody really put a position like, oh, you must qualify, don't qualify. But you go in there knowing that you want to qualify. Because, you take time off to do it. So it's like, yes.
Yeah. No one competes to end up last, right?
Yeah. So, I guess that's the mentality. Like, I want to qualify. So kind of inside me was like, don't worry, you will qualify one. I don't know where that come from, but yeah. So it's quite funny. I slowly climb back up until onto going to last day. Was me and the Indonesian guy. So we were kind of tie points or really close that potentially one mistake it could go to him, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So that morning,
The last day.
the last day.
Okay.
Yeah, so that morning, me and my coach were rolling in bed at 4 a.m. Then I just wake up, I was like, hey, you're not asleep, right? And then he also couldn't sleep. Yeah, because both of us share the same room. So yeah. So that was the funny thing where it kind of popped into my mind like how all this thing happens, but when you go into the race course on the final one, it was just very clear like start off, cover him, just stay on top of him no matter what. As long as you are ahead of him, you'll win the race. So the objective is very clear in the mind on what to do and how to do it. It's just executing it. But when you look back at it, it's like from impossible to reaching it. I think that's something that really pops up.
The other thing that strikes me for sailors is that your competitions last 6 days, 5 days, very long periods of time. So you can imagine, some of us can imagine anxiety levels can go up, down, up, down. You alternate between stress and sheer boredom, right? Because sometimes you have to wait for the wind. What was going through your mind during those 5-6 days? How do you maintain an even temperament, or without getting too excited or too bored?
I'll be honest, it's not easy, but I guess it's having exposure at a young age does help. And I'll explain why I say this, because I remember in 2007 in SEA Games Thailand, there was this conversation about maintaining a steady state throughout the 6-day competition. So this idea was first brought about by back then the high performance manager, I think Mark Robinson. He's mentioned about just maintaining the same level. It's not getting overly excited because that might lose your focus, or overly down into just dragging yourself into a hole. So it's about having that steady position that each day, each race is something new. Just got to maintain that same mood. So I think what hits me back then was that I think they were discussing about some of the younger sailors' performance for one of the training races. So it's not SEA Games, it's one of the training races. And they were like wondering, hey, how come this person isn't performing so well? So I didn't really remember the details, but I remember this one of the senior sailors was saying like, I think they were a bit too high and then low and high and too low, and that affects their performance. So I guess when you have all this exposure at a young age, it slowly brings into you when you go and race, you kind of think about that. But the honest truth is, when you go out in life, there's always highs and lows where you will forget about all these things you learn in sailing. But yeah, I guess it's a good memory. If you ask me next time around, hey Leonard, what do you remember of this time? I guess this is the highs and lows and maintaining a steady pace.
Okay, so let's take us back to that last day, that last race. Coming down to that last race, what was going through your mind? And how did you cope? Because the last race would mean whether or not you would qualify for the Olympics.
I guess the last day was a bit clearer in terms of what I need to do is to just go that 1 inch harder than the person who I need to fight with, and just making sure that I'm covering at all time while staying calm and doing what I need to do. So that's one. I think second thing it helps a lot is my coach. So I can remember it's very clear his instruction was like, okay, based on the previous race, it looks like the left side is better. However, if the guy goes right, go a bit more left, but stick with him at all time, because it's a risk, but not a gamble. So a gamble would be, let's say left is better, you just go left and ignore the person, and if something happens, the guys win. But if you go a bit, but you stick with him, anything happens, you just need to work a little bit harder, but you're still within control of the whole competition.
So tell me, how did that race pan out?
So I think off the line at the start, it was very clear. It's like, just stick on top of him. Everyone is fighting for the best position. You don't have to. Just stick on top of him, go off, stay on top, and then at the right moment, with a calculated risk, go to the left. Then go back on again to cover him. So I remember on the second leg, clearly the left was way better, but the decision was just to cover him. I think he got really frustrated. He was like, the mark is there. Why are you going here? I was like, dude, that's my job, man. It's just to cover you, because at the back of the head, I think when you're calm and somehow everything align nicely, you know where each person are, where are the rest of the fleet, that who potentially is your next threat. And also, I think what helps also, the condition was in my favor. It was a condition that I'm generally okay with and had some good results in this kind of conditions. So I guess all these things align nicely and it helps. So when you finish, it's like, oh, it's so surreal, but yeah.
So it went according to plan, according to your strategy.
Yeah, I guess the stars all aligned nicely on that day itself.
You still recall your first feeling or first thoughts when you knew that you qualified? What was the feeling like?
I think it's just really grateful for the people who supported. Yeah, because without those open doors that they have, without the support from coaches, friends, and family, I think that's impossible.
And what did you do to celebrate?
Actually, not really. I can't remember that.
Who did you tell first
My
when you
parents.
qualified?
Yeah. Because the people who are there, like my coach and my teammate, they know it already. So, yeah, parents.
What happened during that conversation? What did they say?
It's like, thank God. Yeah, I think they were really happy because I guess it's where they have always been supportive and knowing that I think to any parents seeing their own kid reaching and achieving what they wanted, I think that makes them really happy. Yeah, it's sometimes it's not about them themselves, it's just seeing the kids reaching their own goals. I guess that brings a smile to their face.
Did your dad or mom say anything to you that you still remember from that time?
Not really. They are parents of, I guess, few words in a sense, but always big on actions. Yeah.
So now that you're on your way to the Olympics, I guess take us through the Olympics. What were the highlights looking back? What struck you about the whole Olympic experience?
I guess it's a mix of different things. One is after qualifying, the journey leading up. I think what was really nice is being able to train with different people and going through the final push. In the Olympics itself,
Before you got to the Olympics, was there anything that happened that was unexpected that you had to deal with?
so I'm very grateful. Things were smooth for mine. Yeah, we managed to qualify. Thereafter, train in Singapore, going to Europe for the European circuit to prep up for the final phase, and thereafter come back to Singapore, then go to Rio. I guess the second good news halfway through was my teammate managed to qualify, and I think it's through a wild card or something like that. So it's nice to have a full team there. So that was really.
So thankfully, it was a uneventful lead up and preparation for Rio.
Yeah.
So now we're in Rio. Bring us through your time in Rio. What did you had to cope with that was new or unexpected or interesting or fascinating?
Yeah. Okay, I think the challenging for Rio portion was so us windsurfers, we are quite we don't really care about things. It's quite bad. It's really quite bad. But I love it also because we were living in Rio in the houses. To us, it's like back into Thailand again. It's where people say, oh, people get robbed and things like that. To us, it's like, yeah, I think you get that in China, you get that in Thailand. It's totally okay. I guess when rules start to come in, when we go into Rio itself, and they say like, oh, a lot of things you can't do. When we move into the village, that's when we were like, huh?
What could you not do? What were the rules?
I think it was quite clear that all we can do is just the accommodation, to the training venues, and yeah, that's it. So, but it's okay because we were there earlier before that. So we tour around and all this, and we understand where they're coming from because we want to minimize any risk happens there. So I guess that's the switch where when you're like, oh, from that freedom to, okay, make sure you're just prim and proper. That part could take a toll on others, but I think it helps us also because to us it's like, okay, we see where it comes from, the logic behind it, and I think it's a once in a lifetime experience. So just go out there and enjoy it. Yeah, so it's quite cool. Like the whole village, there's the international food hall is 24/7, so you can eat as much as you like. There's unlimited McDonald's. So yes, we order McDonald's, and clearly, this is the saying lah. For us windsurfers, we always burn so much calories. You can just eat whatever you like. Yeah, so food isn't an issue. Yeah, unlimited McDonald's, free Samsung phone. So that was really cool. I guess what I wish we could do more was really to go to the other sports venue and really watch their competition. I think that would be really nice. Yeah, even though if it means like staying there for 1 or 2 more days, I think that would something I really wish looking back. But it's okay, now we can watch it on television. Yeah.
So the other thing that was a concern about for Rio was the water quality. How did it affect you?
Actually, it's okay. It's quite clean there. So, yeah, it wasn't really a big issue for us. I think as long as you know you just don't drink the water, it was still quite okay. Yeah, to us that wasn't really a big thing that going on. Though we have to take precautions, like they give us certain kind of soap so that we can wash off and things like that. But I think we've been worse.
Sorry?
I think we've been worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. or when we look at the water, I think Singapore looks worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So take us through the races. What was it like for you?
Okay, so I think Rio is one of the hardest places to race because firstly you can have any conditions that you could possibly think of, from no wind to strong wind to flat water to big waves, depending on the location of where you're racing at. I think the mentality was a bit different this time around. The mentality is that because each country can only send one person, and that one person is probably the best of their own country. So even though the number of participants is small, but people, they are of very high level, where I think one big mistake makes a big difference. So I guess the mentality switched from, hey, wanting a certain positions or hoping to hit a certain ranking that usually people go in Olympics would have that target. It's the mentality of just going there and enjoy the games, picking up as much as you can, and watching how these top sailors race, which is really nice because I think their stress level is super high because they are there to win a medal, but yet they are able to. At some phase, sometimes you see them just beside you, and then next minute they are right in front. I think the ability to keep calm and composed and focusing on the process itself, you're like, wow, how they do it, and they recover so fast from each mistake. I think that's something amazing when you see them do it.
Knowing that you were at the Olympics, did you get butterflies? Did you get a bit of stage fright? And if you did, how did you cope with the expectations of being an Olympian?
Don't have it. Just go there. I mean, yeah, that's the mentality. Is just go and qualify, go out there and just go and learn it. So I guess when there's no pressures, there's no really reasons for butterflies. Okay. So I think that helps.
Certainly, yes. So when you look back at the Olympic experience, what strikes you about in the Olympics that you never get or never got from the other major games or major championships?
I think the biggest thing that strikes me, the first thing that pops up into my head is that I guess those who win a medal, they are really happy. but there are so many close shaves which they fall off the top 3 position. And the thought of like, wow, these people, when it's only once in every 4 years, and we all know there's the next chance it's another cycle, which potentially you couldn't be the one representing the country because someone win you in the trials. So that ability to cope at an immense amount of stress for the next 4 years, really it's a whole new respect for these people, because a lot of times it's like, yeah, the top 3 they win a medal, but people don't see the 4th, the 5th, the 6th who could potentially be the first, but they fall back. Yeah, that kind of really struck me.
So the margins between first and fourth can be very, very small.
Yeah, even 5th, knowing that they could, but they didn't. So I guess the respect for them, it's grown because you see them coming back and going on to race after being so close, but not getting it. And I think I know one of the girls that happened to her, I think twice or thrice, or 2 Olympics. Yeah.
So, so after you finished the Olympics, what was the dominant feeling for you? What did you feel having done that?
It's like 12 years of journey. But I guess it's, looking back, it's grateful for the opportunities because it shapes the way I am. And then secondly, it's also a whole new perspective where I think there's so many more things in life than just sports alone. So a lot of time we think about, hey, I think like sports are the key thing, and then why don't you continue on for next Olympics and things like that.
Was that a consideration?
There was.
Okay.
But I guess it was quite clear in the sense that I think it's about time to switch gear. And
how old were you then?
That was 23, 24.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the time to switch gear, to go back to study, picking up skills and experiencing life in a different way.
What weighed on your decision to continue or to stay? What were the considerations? So you're saying time to look at studies again and look at working life, is it? That was a major consideration. Were there other considerations as well?
So one is either to, after you finish Olympics, having 12 years of windsurfing experience, is there something more that you want to reach for in terms of sports? So that's one consideration.
And what was the answer to that?
I think for me personally, it's to hit to the Olympic, and that was my goal. I think medaling at the Olympics takes a whole new level, because firstly, in terms of physics, in terms of people you train with, and I think you kind of know whether you can or cannot. And it's really hard to convince yourself like, oh yes, I can win a medal. I think it's good to dream big. By that point in life, I think that wasn't really quite realistic.
So you made an assessment of yourself and said,
yeah,
that's not realistic. Okay. Were there voices saying, go for another Olympics?
Actually, not really. I think you kind of know it. So sometimes it's that within you, you kind of like seal the fate, where you decided to just close the door. Yeah.
So when you're closing that door, drawing to a close, 12 years as a sailor, what were some of your thoughts as you bring that part of life to an end?
Thankfully, it wasn't an end then.
Okay.
Yeah, so after that, it was a different transition. over to, I think, just going down to the uni level, just spreading the love for the sport and coaching. So yeah, very thankful that while I was doing that, I have really good people around me, which managed to, after coaching for 2 years, able to pass the baton on to others who are willing to take on, which also shows me the ability that, I think sometimes it's always nice to let people experience the fun that you have, the ability to empower them to do things that you think was impossible, and allowing them to contribute back. So I think that whole loops really open a whole new perspective.
So you spend time as a coach within the university system, is that what you did?
Yeah, within the university, and building up the team with the help of really good people around me.
So you found that to be a very meaningful experience, taking your love of the sport, but now channeling it through your role as a coach.
Yeah, and I think the most fulfilling part is to see people who started learning in university and actually becoming coaches who teach people, and that whole ecosystem or the whole cycle. It's quite fulfilling to see them like being able to do that, and how each different people contributes their own way.
So I guess for this just last part of the conversation, if you look back over the 16 years of sailing, in terms of how you cope, your coping strategies, what stands out for you in terms of what were your coping resources? What were the 1, 2 or 3 things that help you manage? Like you said, there's always ups and downs. Your transition from youth to senior was one tough one. Then you said the transition from NS back to high performance training was even worse than the youth to senior.
Yeah.
In terms of your coping strategies, what do you think helped you a lot?
I think the first part is enjoying the sport itself as it is. That really helps a lot. Because I think that was something that was built ingrained because of the coaches and the people around me. So I guess that helps. Second thing is always...
So it's something that you wanted to do. You were enjoying it. You, Leonard, was like, I'm having fun, I'll keep going.
Yeah. So, loving what I'm doing. Which is being influenced also by the people around me. It helps a lot. And enjoying what I do.
So the coaches, like you mentioned, were positive influences on you.
Yep.
In helping you appreciate the sport.
I think the second coping mechanism is also having the mix of both school and sports. Because it helps to switch in between when things get a little bit too mundane. So I think once you study too much, you get bored about it. You kind of absorb in. Similarly in sports, when you just train and you don't see results or you don't find the joy of it, there's always the other way around where exam comes in and you can't train, you can't enjoy it, and then when you come back like, oh, actually this is nice, it's more relaxing.
So the irony is, you actually need both, right? Because sometimes people may have the misconception that I just want to train full time and not do anything else. But you are saying having both helped you to balance life out for you.
Yeah. And I think that helps a lot because that gives us the social support also in terms of school where people, your friends know you're doing it. And it's always nice to be able to come back and then they're still quite open and welcoming.
On this point, would you do anything differently in terms of balancing sports and studies, looking back now?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with that. What happened? Because it was a good balance to be away from school a while, and then coming back to be very focused when you need to.
Okay. Okay. So you've outlined two areas, right, of coping. One is your own enjoyment of the sport, influenced by your coach. Second one is, having both sports and studies at the same time that allow you to have balance and allow you to enjoy each at the appropriate time. What else? Would there be anything else that helped you cope?
I guess it's family support, lastly. Yeah, I think it's knowing that you can do what you want and not having to worry back home. That's a big difference. Whereas I think for someone who knows that their parents aren't supportive of what they do, it brings a big toll mentally, because it's like a small seed of thing growing to your mind and keep thinking about it. But having that one thing off, it helps a lot.
Okay. So that made a big difference for you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Leonard, thanks for taking the time. Is there anything else that I may have not asked you about? I know I've asked you many, many questions.
Yeah.
So if you think about the two sessions we've had, two conversations, what stands out for you?
I guess for this time round, it's all about maintaining that level position, even things get up and down. But yet, I know we all have feelings, so it is normal. We're not robots, but just maintaining that straight line pace, that things can be all right. So that's one good reminder. I think a few things that really stand out. It's having a mix of both study and sports, or having things to flip around in life helps a lot, and being grateful for the people around us.
Yeah, I'm struck by your comment, because you keep talking about being grateful, and I'm struck by your sense of community, I guess. You're always thinking about the people who have helped you, your coaches, your parents. And so even though you're in a very individual sport, there's nothing more individual than being out there on the sea alone by yourself. But you have a community.
They say it takes a town to build someone up. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Leonard.
Thanks a lot, Leslie.
Thanks, really appreciate the time.
And thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome.